In this episode of How Hacks Happen, we're going to start with a little radio drama. The story begins in a car where Mark is giving his coworker, Sally, a ride to a gas station. Sally can't drive at the moment because she's recovering from a broken leg and is hobbling around on crutches. Sally has arranged for her neighbor Rachel to pick her up at a gas station along the way and bring her all the way home. Sally has all her work stuff in the back seat, including her laptop. Let's listen in and see what happens when Mark and Sally stop at the gas station.
Thanks for the ride. I really appreciate it.
It's gotta be hard enough, hobbling around the office in a cast. It was the least I could do. I could drive you all the way home, you know. I don't need to drop you off at a gas station.
Oh no, you've gone enough out of your way. There's my ride, right over there. Hey, Rachel!
Hey, girl.
When will you be able to drive again?
2 weeks. I can't wait to get this thing off my leg.
I can at least
I'm
help
good.
you.
Seriously.
But you really shouldn't put your laptop on top of the trash.
Hey!
Are you okay?
Was that your laptop?
I'm calling the police.
Ma'am, just tell me what happened.
I just put it down for a second.
You put your laptop on top of the trash can.
These guys just pulled up and grabbed it, and they drove away.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but when you put your laptop on top of the trash can, it became abandoned property, basically trash, and anyone could take it.
What? But that's my laptop.
I'm sorry, ma'am. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, this actually happened. Not to me, but to a coworker. And while I'm not 100% in agreement with the police officer that putting something down for a few seconds on a trash can makes it legally abandoned, it did get me thinking. When does something you throw out actually leave your possession? In other words, when does your trash become trash? In this episode of How Hacks Happen, we're going to explore the murky world of trash possession and how your trash could become a scammer's treasure. Trash is not always trash. If something leaves your possession, the law more or less makes a distinction between 3 different ways that this could happen. There's lost property, which you left somewhere but didn't mean to, like when you accidentally leave your phone at a bar.
What can I get for you tonight?
I think I left my phone here last night. It has a blue cover with rainbows on it.
Let me check. Is this it?
Yes, thank you so much.
Technically, you still own the phone. Somebody might steal it off the bar in the meantime, but if you track it down with an app or whatever, you can legally get it back. Then there's mislaid property, where you put it down somewhere intentionally, but temporarily. Like if you put your phone down on a tailgate when you're partying in the parking lot before a big game. Then walk a few cars away to introduce yourself to that cutie wearing your team's colors.
Hey there.
Hey, you want a cold one?
Sure. What's your name?
I'm Lisa.
Sam.
So what do you think of the point spread?
That phone you left on the tailgate, it's still yours. And it's expected that it will still be there when you come back a few minutes later. If someone takes it, that's theft. And last but not least, there's abandoned property. That's if you intentionally throw the phone away, like toss it in a dumpster or in a trash can.
Whew, no more cell phone. I'm free. Did you hear me? I'm free.
These 3 distinctions, lost, mislaid, abandoned, are 3 important differences in the eyes of the law, but there's a lot of gray area in there. And it's not necessarily worth it to sort your way through them. I mean, in any of these scenarios where the phone is no longer in your possession, you either get your phone back or you don't. And if you don't, it's probably cheaper and easier to just go get a new one. Where these differences do come in is where your actual trash is concerned. When you throw something in the trash bin on your curb, you have every expectation that it's going straight from your house to a big stinky landfill somewhere where it will eventually degrade into dirt or get eaten by rats. But the truth is, that's not always the case. You see, when your trash can sits out on a public curb or a street, it generally ceases to belong to you. This means that anyone can go through the trash bin and take what they like. This includes dumpster divers, the police, and scammers. Let's start with the police and what they can and can't do. In 1990, the state police in New Jersey got a tip that a couple, Conrad and Sharon Hempelli, were drug dealers. On the basis of that information, a state trooper went to the Hempelli's address and took their trash. No warrant, no nothing. Just went and took the trash bags out of the can where it sat on their property near the street. A test of the trash showed traces of drugs, and on the basis of this test, the state police got a warrant for the Hempelli's house, and that search turned up drugs, enough to arrest the couple. The trial court ruled that the trash was not legally obtained because the state had not proven that the trash had been left for collection, or that it had been seized on public property. So the court suppressed the evidence from the trash can because it was collected in a way that violated the Hempelli's Fourth Amendment rights. And that meant that the evidence from the search of the house was also thrown out because the search warrant was obtained based on evidence from that illegal trash can search. So that case, State versus Hempelli, set a precedent in New Jersey. So you'd assume that in all the rest of the states in the United States, it's the same, right? No. In California versus Greenwood in 1988, the United States Supreme Court held that the Fourth Amendment does not prohibit unreasonable searches and seizures of garbage left for collection in an area accessible to the public. They weren't even limiting the legality of a search to public property like the curb or the street. They were saying it was legal in an area accessible to the public. Now, there have been tons of legal discussions and arguments about this very thing. Most of the arguments come down to the question of whether you have a reasonable expectation of privacy when it comes to your trash. On one side is the argument that animals like dogs and raccoons and even bears have been known to get into people's trash cans, and also hungry people down on their luck. If you know that could happen, the argument goes, it negates any expectation of privacy for your trash. But that argument kind of falls down when you try to liken it to some other expectation of privacy, like in your yard. If your bicycle is sitting in your yard and your yard is accessible to the public, does that mean someone can just come into your yard and take your bike? Or come into your driveway and take your car, for that matter? Of course not. Because your car and your bicycle belong to you. There's no question. So extending from that, your trash belongs to you until it gets taken away by the waste company, who you have authorized to take it away because you have a trash contract with them, whether directly or through the city or whatever. By the mere fact of putting it in your trash can and putting the can near the street, you are authorizing them to take possession of your trash. That makes sense. So with that logic, after the waste company comes and pick it up, the trash belongs to them, right? So does that mean they could turn your trash over to the police? This distinction is where things get messy, pardon the pun. In the New Jersey case, the one that got thrown out, the police went through the Hempelli's trash. In the California case, the trash collector went and picked up the trash and handed it to the police, and that was considered okay. There has been an unbelievable amount of ink and paper and court cases and briefs and writings devoted to the question of whether a search of your trash is a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. And while these discussions might help if the police are going through your trash without a warrant, none of them are going to help you if a scammer goes through your trash. Now, I'm not talking about that neighbor kid who comes to collect up your glass bottles and aluminum cans to make a few bucks on the side. I'm talking about people who rifle through your trash, looking for identifying information, stuff like credit card statements, bank statements, tax returns, cell phone bills, even utility bills, anything they can use to pretend to be you and steal your identity so they can get money. You might think this would never happen to you with your bank account that bottoms out at $68.35. But you'd be amazed at what a criminal gang can do with a few documents.
Anything yet?
Just some receipts from, Walmart.
Utility bill. Oh, and what have we here?
Is that a W-2?
Bingo!
Hey, I got a credit card statement and a tax return from 2017.
Nice score.
Have these people never heard of a shredder?
Apparently not. Oh, and look, a receipt from sweet little doggy, Bella's. Trip to the vet.
What are you?
Let's get out of here.
Oh, officer, thank God you're here.
So, they were going through your trash.
Yes, there were two of them just picking through my trash.
But it's trash.
Right. My trash.
It's trash, ma'am. Once it goes out to the curb, you can't have any reasonable expectation of privacy for it.
Oh, that can't be right. These are my private documents they were looking at.
Then maybe you shouldn't have put them in the trash.
That is crazy. I want you to hunt down those scammers and bind them.
Ma'am.
They took my tax returns and credit
Ma'am.
card statements, and I want you to chase them down and
Ma'am,
arrest them.
don't push me.
Now.
Ma'am, if you keep being aggressive, I'm going to
Weren't
have to arrest
doing
you for
something
assaulting
about
an
it?
officer.
Why are you just standing here? They've gone
Ma'am.
down the
Ferguson
street.
here.
They taken
I'm
my
gonna need
stuff.
backup at
Why
510
can't you
Maple
just go
Green.
chase them? This is outrageous.
Meanwhile, at a seedy little office downtown, the dumpster divers meet with their broker.
How many?
520. All from that swanky neighborhood up on the hill. Social security numbers, names, addresses, phone numbers, and security questions. Mother's maiden name, dog's name, everything.
How much you want?
Same as last time.
Okay, folks, we got some fresh meat here. Let's get to it.
Oh, I'm gonna open some credit cards tonight.
Hey, let me know when you're done. I have a buyer lined up.
Hey, Carlos, what are you running tonight?
Bank fraud. There's been suspicious activity on your account. Blah, blah, blah.
An oldie but goodie.
What can I say? I like the classics. And with this level of detail, piece of cake. Bet you I get one first try.
You're on.
Do you see where I'm going with the trash thing? While the law can't necessarily go through your trash without a warrant, scammers have no such restrictions. So what can you do? First of all, you could start getting super aware of what you put in your trash. Ideally, don't put anything in your trash with your name and address on it, never mind the other information. You can invest in a shredder and run all your identifying documents through it before you throw them in the trash. Thieves want the easiest road possible, so if all they find in your trash is a bunch of shredded paper, they'll just move on to the next victim and leave you alone. If you have a fireplace or a fire pit, so much the better. You can burn all your sensitive documents. That'll keep them out of scammers' hands. As for electronics, If you don't have a passcode on your phone, please put one on right away. There have been reports of thieves that steal a phone and then throw it in the trash a block or two away because it's got a passcode on it and they don't want to bother with that. You're also going to need to turn on the Find feature on your phone, but you need to do that before it gets stolen so that you can find it after it disappears. And for computers, do not throw out an old computer until you have scrubbed it clean. And by this, I mean use a tool that's going to erase the hard disk and not just hitting the delete button. These tools wipe the entire drive so squeaky clean that thieves will never be able to find a trace of any of your information on it. And you need to do this before you throw the computer in the trash or even give it away to your nephew or to your local school. And as always, you could freeze your credit. So even if scammers do come across a document or two, they can't use it to open up credit in your name. Your personal information can also be used for highly targeted phishing attempts, called spear phishing. Suppose you get an email that looks like it's from your bank. The email includes your account number and your exact balance, and even some details about recent transactions. You could easily be fooled into thinking it's really from your bank. But as with all emails, don't click anything in the email. Go directly to your bank's website and log in there. Whatever they're talking about in the email should be easily visible after you log in, if it's legit. Then there's those checks you get from your credit card company, inviting you to get a cash advance just by depositing one of the enclosed checks. These checks are a fraudster's dream, so don't just throw them away. Shred them to pieces first, or if you don't have a shredder, black out all the account information on each check and write void on it in big letters, and then tear them into teeny tiny pieces and distribute them into different bags of trash. And you know how you're advised to cut up your credit cards before throwing them away? A lot of shredders will shred plastic too. But again, if you don't have a shredder, cut the card into tiny pieces, none of which has a complete piece of information, and throw them in different trash cans. I got a lot of this information from a report called Dumpster Diving for Documents, the low-tech threat fueling high-stakes identity theft from the Frauds Watch website. This is a great report that gives a comprehensive picture of the dangers of throwing sensitive documents in the trash and lists a bunch of them I hadn't even thought about, like even junk mail. And the report underscores how even a little information can go a long way when it comes to fraud. The report says, quote, "Even seemingly harmless pieces of information, when aggregated, can paint a detailed picture of an individual, enabling identity theft. A name combined with a date of birth and address, all potentially found in discarded mail, can be sufficient for a thief to begin their fraudulent activities. This underscores the critical need to treat all documents containing any personally identifiable information as sensitive and dispose of them securely." Hopefully, today's episode gave you some new ways to think about your trash. What you put in it, who can legally poke around in it, and most importantly, what scammers can do with it. This is Michelle Bousquet from How Hacks Happen. And I can't do anything about the dogs and the raccoons going through your trash, but I can help you keep it safe from scammers, one garbage can at a time. Hey, get out of there! Hey, those are my rotten tomatoes! Since we have a little time here at the end of the episode, I wanted to tell you a true story about trash, something I was actually involved in. A few years ago, my friend Shirley, who I've mentioned on this podcast before, she purchased an abandoned property, and she was going to fix it up. But right after she bought it, some jerk dumped a bunch of trash bags in her yard. Now, this wasn't the first time this had happened. There are, unfortunately, some people in downtown New Orleans who don't want to pay for trash pickup, so they just throw the bags on other people's property, usually abandoned properties, and make it the city's problem. Shirley was prepared to do what she always did when something like this happened. She would take the bags to the dump herself and call it a day. But I was not having it. No. I remembered all too well the lessons from the song Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie, where an envelope with a name and address on it pointed to the perpetrator who dumped the trash illegally. So I dug through one of the trash bags to look for an address. Yeah, it was disgusting, but I was on a mission. And then, eureka! Eventually, I found several envelopes with the same address, a house that was just a couple blocks away, and I knew I had them. So with Shirley protesting the entire time, I said, no, I'm going to drive these bags back to this person's house. And I considered dumping the trash all over their front porch, but I didn't. I mean, you never know what people are going through, but they need to throw their trash out properly. So I just left the bags on the front porch and wrote them a little note asking them to please not dump their trash on other people's property. And I left it at that. And that's my trash story. Thank you so much for coming on this little adventure with me. In between making episodes of How Hacks Happen, I wrote a book called The Art and Math of Cryptography. If you're a mathy-ish person who wants to learn more about how cryptography works under the hood, I think you'll like this book. It also makes a great gift for that friend of yours who's obsessed with cybersecurity. You can find The Art and Math of Cryptography at Amazon.com in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover formats.